16 point? Didn't Donald Trump tank compared to previous Republicans in Texas? Imagine such a self-report. You know, it swings to the left because it's very college educated.
Holy shit.
I actually didn't think it would be that big. Oh my God. It can't be real. It can't be real. Like, it's just like crazy. Shit.
Video with On Point Politics, your number one stop for all things polling and election analysis. And today we're going to be collabing with GoldCrown Politics, another accurate forecaster for the 2020 election, to see where we stand as of right now. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, GoldCrown Politics here. On Point, thanks for having me on. Let's get into it.
All right, guys, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. If you want more content just like this, hit the bell notification, share this on X, and comment down below to help us out with the algorithm as well. So essentially, we kind of averaged out our margins in certain swing states. So we have an expanded battleground map. So yes, there is 313 toss-ups, but not all of them are technically toss-up states. We're kind of just going to have an expanded map, and we're essentially going to go from west to east. That's what we'll do in this video. And what I did is I essentially averaged out our margins for all of these states that we have projected, and we have somewhat similar margins in some of the states.
Oh man, I love their methodology so much. They're just plugging and playing numbers all over the place, dude. It's so crazy how many numbers just materialize that give +5 to Trump in so many states. It's so strange. And now they're taking both of their models that are giving Trump a 99% chance to win. They're taking both of their models and they're, instead of like doing any analysis therein, they're just adding the two numbers together and then dividing by 2 to see what their combined model, like, Jesus Christ. I love fake statistics. I love people that are so confident. Like, I would never be so confident to try and make a model for this by myself that is so crazy different from every accurate pollster in the entire world, getting results that are so crazy outside of the box, and then thinking, you know what? I know something that none of these other people have thought about.
By the way, but first we're going to look at GoldCrown Politics' 2020 margin. He reweighted all of the polling averages, you know, from 2020. He was able to get the popular vote even closer than mine, and he was able to get the swing states even closer to me as well, which is pretty crazy. And we look at this, and this is the map he would have gone here. Applying the swing state polling averages, he would have been able to get them even more accurate. States without polling averages, they kind of rely on a national trend and, you know, guessing of the demographics. But essentially, he would have gotten a perfect map in that election, and I also have a perfect map with a similar system. Our models are similar, but still slightly different. But my model, as you can see right.
Ooh, thank you. Let me wait. In which Discord? In mine? In a DM? Oh, I haven't received it yet, which is strange. Are you sure you sent it to the right console?
Here, going to the swing states like, you know, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Michigan, my error in a lot of these states is only in a few directions. I actually overestimated the Democrats in all of the really close swing states, by the way. And I also got 100% accuracy in 2020 as well. And even Gallup is pretty fascinating because we can see right here that Gallup also has a...
Sounds like you need to make a video predicting Trump's going to win and then one predicting Harris will win. And we'll unlist the one that's wrong. Genuinely, that's a great idea. We should do that. I guessed this shit.
A metric that currently right now, they all favor the Republicans. Party ID/leaning is favoring them. Economic satisfaction is low. It's actually pretty low compared to the other years. U.S. satisfaction is at an all-time low. Presidential job approval is also very low. Republicans are favored on all of the issues as well. Even the preference for government activity is 55% do less, 41% do more. And this party leaning, you know, poll that Gallup does every year actually ends up being spot on. In 2008, they predicted a D+8 electorate, and Obama won the popular vote by 7.2. Here it was D+4 in 2012. Obama won the popular vote by 3.9. D+3 in 2016. Clinton won the popular vote by 2.1. And it was D+5 in the 2020 election, and Biden won the popular vote by 4.5. And why don't you look at that? We have a +3 for the Republicans right now, and both of our popular vote margins essentially are within 2.5 to 3.5 point victories for Trump, depending on which model you basically pay attention to more. And we see this literally the year where the party led on the most important issue. They were the one who ended up winning the election. The only time that this didn't actually happen was, I believe, it was even in 1976, the Democrat was ahead on this issue, and they actually still ended up winning regardless. So pretty fascinating stuff, guys. This has been a pretty big track record, even more accurate than Alan Lichtman's, even more accurate than Alan Lichtman's stuff. And you can see in 2000 they didn't even do a poll on this, which was kind of strange. But we also see even Americans' opinions on which political party is able to keep the U.S. prosperous. The Republicans are now ahead. 2016, they were only ahead by a bit. Now there's a huge advantage to the Republicans. They haven't had much of as lead as this, or even as high as that, since 1988, where George H.W. Bush basically won that election by a double-digit lead in the popular vote or close to it. And you can see the economic confidence hasn't been this bad.
It's not going to happen this time.
-28, another bad indicator. And usually when the economy is in the bad indicator, it usually tends to have the incumbent party fall. The only time this happened was when 2012, it was -1, but Obama kind of bucked that trend very narrowly. But you can see that this has been fairly accurate over time. And with GoldCrown's model, we're going to go ahead and let him explain the model, and then we'll kind of get into our averaged out margins.
So here you can see my national election model. I basically have 3 different models that I average out to calculate.
The question I always want to ask is, if you have 2 gamblers, one of them flips a coin and one of them looks at an in-depth history of each fighter, The one who flips the coin was right. Who was more correct? The example that I always use is you have two people and they're measuring a table, and one person walks over and they have a tape measure, and they pull out the tape measure and they measure the length, width, and height of the table, and they're like, okay, this is 24 by 18 by 24, right? And someone pulls out 6 dice and they roll it, and they're like, okay, 24 by 18 by 24. Who is more correct? Right? Like, it's insane to me that people. Shut up. I just clicked on a different thing. God, that completely killed my train of thought.
For this election, so you can see the first one up there. That's my polling bias model. I basically look at the fact that the polls have been very skewed towards Democrats. You know, the past election cycle, they were overestimated by about 4.5 points in my estimation nationally, which is a huge overestimation. And so if you apply that same polling bias to the current average, which I have that average is about 1.32 points for Harris. If you apply the 4.5 point Dem overestimation, I get to Trump plus 3.2 in the national popular vote. And then you can scroll down, you can see my second model. This one here is my vote share model. It includes job approval. Job approval historically has been very accurate in terms of estimating vote share for candidates. And for Harris, actually updated this. I used to use RCP for her job approval, but now I'm using 538 because they technically do have a much better sample size. And I'm also weighing it a little bit differently as well. It's not a D+1 electorate. I'm actually estimating in my personal estimation an R+2 electorate, and I'm going to explain that potentially on my channel in a later video. But that margin is Trump plus 2.9, as you can see there. And then in my third model, if you scroll down, my favorability model is kind of similar in terms of the or similar to the job approval model, where instead I use favorability, and you can see Trump's leading this model by 2 points. And so I basically average out all those models. And if you scroll down, you can see my official model average, which has Trump at about plus 2.7 right now in terms of the national popular vote. And so, you know, both On Point Politics and myself, we have
you think Trump is going to win? Like, this is why you can't just like take random averages and then average together a couple of things. Like, you have to account for so many different factors in all of these different models. You can't take, like, I don't think that averaging out models versus like how models work, where they're averaging out polls and then weighting them different based on how accurate they are, like historically, right? Like, this guy seems to be taking models, like entire models, and then averaging those out and then plugging in some kind of skew here. Where did he say he was getting these numbers from again?
Model. I basically have 3 different models that I average out to calculate the popular vote for this election. So you can see the first one up there. That's my polling bias model. I basically look at the fact that the polls have been very skewed towards Democrats. You know, the past election cycle, they were overestimated by about 4.5 points in my estimation nationally, which is a huge overestimation. And so if you apply that same polling bias to the current average, which I have that average is about 1.32 points for Harris. If you apply the 4.5 point Dem overestimation, I get to Trump plus 3.2 in the national popular vote.
Just deciding to average all of the adjustments from all of these places, and then just averaging that average with the Dem. What I'm gathering is, did he say that that's what his estimation is?
4.5 points in my estimation nationally, which is the fact that the polls that I average out to calculate the popular vote for this election. So you can see the first one up there. That's my polling bias model. I basically look at the fact that the polls have been very skewed towards Democrats. You know, the past election cycle, they were overestimated by about 4.5 points in my estimation nationally, which is a huge overestimation. And so if you apply that same polling bias to the current average, which I have that average is about 1.32 points for Harris. If you apply the 4.5 point Dem overestimation, I get to Trump plus 3.2 in the national popular vote. And then you can scroll down. You can
like, just like, what an absolutely insane way to come to a conclusion.
See my second model. This one here is my vote share model. It includes job approval. Job approval historically has been very accurate in terms of estimating vote share for candidates. And for Harris, actually updated this. I used to use RCP.
Like, again, don't get me wrong. Like, Trump might win the election. There are some polling biases that need to be accounted for correctly. It seems like everyone's having a little bit of difficulty with that, but by and large, they're pretty close within their margin of error, right? This is insane. I don't think that there's a single model out there that has Trump up in every single metric. And the only way that this guy is getting there is by like skewing the numbers, by taking other skewed numbers, averaging those out, and then averaging it with other numbers that I guess he's just like estimating. Like, it's just like crazy. I would never pretend to be like smart enough to make my own model by myself, right? Like, I don't know if there is anyone out there that has a model that they made all by themselves. Even Nate Silver had 538 that was, you know, massively, you know, it was like a massive thing. It was his name attached to it, but there were a lot of people working on that thing, on that project. This is This is massive copium. Even if Trump wins, it's not because this guy's models were correct.
For her job approval, but now I'm using 538 because they technically do have a much better sample size, and I'm also weighing it a little bit differently as well. It's not a D+1 electorate. I'm actually estimating in my personal estimation an R+2 electorate, and I'm going to explain that potentially on my channel in a later video. But that margin is Trump plus 2.9, as you can see there. And then in my third model, if you scroll down, my favorability model is kind of similar in terms of the, they're similar to the job approval model, where instead I use favorability, and you can see Trump is leading this model by 2 points. And so I basically average out all those models, and if you scroll down, you can see my official model average, which has Trump at about plus 2.7 right now in terms of the national popular vote. And so, you know, both On Point Politics and myself.
Plus 2.7 on the national vote, when Donald Trump has lost the national the national popular vote in every election that he's ever run in. He's never won the popular vote, no matter how much you want to like plug and play different numbers all over the place. It looks very professional, son, so I'll use Excel and everything.
We have very similar margins in the popular vote, about plus 2.5 for Trump to plus 3, and that lines up with Gallup. As he showed earlier, that they track party ID going back multiple decades, and ever since 2008, it's been pretty much spot on in terms of tracking the popular vote. It's indicating about Trump plus 3 this cycle, and that's what both On Point Politics and myself do have. And so it's very encouraging to see that our margins.
Yeah, two people who are massively coping at this point. Are
lining up, and also our state margins
I don't
are lining
understand.
up as well. You can see these are my state margins on the map there. We can start comparing our state margins if you want to scroll down On Point if you want to.
So essentially, guys, to fill out the map now, we do have estimated, averaged out margins. I basically have my own margins for all of the states that are listed here. And
then taking two random, like, dumb on the internet's presidential models that are so heavily skewed towards Donald Trump, and then averaging those out without accounting for anything else is just like the most buck wild thing in the entire world to me. Why would you not want to be more accurate? Like, they gotta know, like, based off of everything that they're reading all of these different models, and all of the models are much tighter than what they're putting in here. Like, we have, this is North Carolina, we have 538s right here, 55-45. What about Real Clear Politics? RCP, which it was brought to my attention recently that this is a more, they lean more conservative, which is something I didn't know, but they have Harris up in the popular vote, 49-46. It's just like crazy. The plugging and playing like Lego bricks of all these numbers.
GoldCrown has it as well. We'll kind of be filling these out. I'll go ahead and let GoldCrown do the blue states first, and then we'll go ahead and I'll also do the red states and the swing states as well. And we'll also fill out those districts really quick too. So go ahead and do the districts and the blue states, and I'll do the swing states and the red states.
So for the deep blue states, let's start with Minnesota. That average between our two models is about 0.7 points for Kamala Harris. That is a tilt margin. This state, it could be pretty close, considering the fact that the state is actually pretty elastic. It swings pretty violently both directions. Politically, we saw this in 20.
Wait, which one is he talking about?
Between our two models is about 0.7 points for Kamala Harris. That is a tilt margin. This state, it could be pretty close, considering the fact that the state is actually pretty elastic. It swings pretty violently both directions.
I don't think Minnesota has voted Republican since like the 50s, right? Minnesota, okay. So since 1972, they haven't voted Republican. Even during the 49 state landslide, it was a 49 state because of Reagan, or because of Minnesota. They've been pretty reliably Democrat since 1932, with the exception of Eisenhower and Nixon. Why the fuck is this guy saying it swings pretty violently back and forth?
The districts.
That average between our two models is about 0.7 points for Kamala Harris. That is a tilt margin. This state, it could be pretty close, considering the fact that the state is actually pretty elastic. It swings pretty violently both directions. Politically, we saw this in 2016 where it came pretty close, and then in 2020 it zoomed off to the left. And so I think for the state,
betting markets have them a point apart. I heard recently, I can't remember if someone's floating legislation or like people are trying to like pressure politicians to put legislation on presidential or electoral betting. Nixon was a crook, so maybe Trump has a chance. based.
It could very well be closer if it zooms to the right. It would have to trend right. It very well could. New Hampshire, our model, our average between our two models is 0.5 points for Kamala Harris. This state is pretty similar to Minnesota in the sense that independents are very swingy voters. It's a little unpredictable of a state to predict, but a 0.5 point margin for Kamala Harris. Trump is within striking distance to win that state. Maine, we are looking at a 1.3 point margin for Kamala Harris. It's in the lean column. Pretty similar to New Hampshire, you have a lot of swingy voters. The independents in Maine are a little unpredictable. New Mexico, we're looking at a 2.9 point margin for Kamala Harris, which is in the lean Democratic column. This state, I definitely think that Trump, because it's a border state, immigration will play a role in terms of the state potentially trending a little bit to the right. Typically the trend in the state is typically neutral, historically speaking, but the state could definitely get closer for Trump, depending on what the exact national environment that we're looking at. And then we can look at Virginia. This margin between our two models averages out to 2.9 points for Kamala Harris. This state, I think it's definitely one where Trump can make up some ground. 2020 it did zoom off to the left because it's very college educated, but I do think that Glenn Youngkin being an exceptional governor there.
Imagine such a self-report. It swings to the left because it's very college educated. There's not enough idiots there. There's not enough idiots in Virginia for them to vote Republican anymore.
Very high approval rating. He could be helping in terms of helping the state turn back to the right. He also passed the paper ballot initiative that could certainly help Republicans in the state. We can also look at the state of Washington next. This averages at about 11 points for Kamala Harris between our two models. This state is very college educated. It's very white. I think it's going to continue its leftward trend. However, something interesting to note for Washington, it is actually a top 3 to 4 nation. It is a top 3 to 4 state in the country in terms of its union electorate. So if you look at union, by percentage in terms of the share of workers by state, Washington is top 3 or 4, and Trump is actually making up a lot of ground. Against Harris, not so much against Biden. Now that Harris is in the race, Trump is making a lot of ground with union voters. If you look at surveys, you saw the Teamsters union survey where they're backing Trump by like 2 to 1. And so, despite the fact that the state is really college educated, we could definitely.
Isn't it true? Now, I hadn't looked very much into this at all. Teamsters, didn't like a ton of individual. Yeah, they basically left it up to like each individual union inside of the union of unions, basically. Could endorse, and I'm pretty sure they're mostly endorsing Kamala, but I could be wrong on that. I haven't looked very deeply into this. Florida, Georgia Teamsters break with national leadership by endorsing Harris-Walz. Arizona Teamsters endorse Kamala Harris. What did your boss say to you, Wizard Lizard? I hope it's an actually funny joke.
We see Trump make up some ground there. And Oregon is the same margin as well, plus 11 for Kamala Harris. A pretty similar story with that state. It's pretty white and college educated. It does have a decent union electorate. I still think it'll trend left. Colorado, we're looking at a 9-point win for Kamala Harris in terms of the averages between our two models. This state, it is a historically leftward trending state. It's very white and college educated. There's been a lot of California Democrats who have moved into the state as well, and they've been pushing the state to the left. Illinois, we're looking at a 10-point win for Kamala Harris. That's the average in that state. This state, I think the trend will be kind of neutral. They're kind of,
I want to see what they say about Texas, because the Texas, you know what? In my entire life living in Texas, Houston, Texas, Ted Cruz was my senator. I've seen his house and I've driven by his offices. I have a friend that was a valet driver in one of his house at one of his house's buildings, and he was just like a total asshole to that guy. Right? I know about Ted Cruz. You know what? I never saw my entire life? An advertisement for Ted Cruz for Senate. They didn't ever even try. They didn't need to. Even when he was super close, when it was Beto O'Rourke, when it was like a 2-point loss, I don't remember ever seeing a Ted Cruz ad. You know what I'm seeing all over the place? Ted Cruz ads. They're like actually worried Ted Cruz is going to lose his Senate seat to a Democrat. That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, I hope Colin Allred kicks him out too. Listen, anyone that could unseat Cruz. Give me a final verdict. Take a selfie right now. Send it to me. Did Cruz kneecap the border bill? Yes, he was one of the people. In Pennsylvania, no less. Jesus. You're not really their target audience? I'm even less of their target audience now, and I'm getting it. And I live in a different state now, and I'm getting it. They're blasting it out all over the place, dude. Begging for money. Wait, do you not know what I look like? I'm not sure I do. I mean, I can see your profile in your profile picture. Watch, you're going to send me a picture of you, and then I'm going to realize, oh, you're one of those people I met in Georgia or Wisconsin. I just don't remember everyone's internet code names. Everyone needs to register as a Texan. Then we can steal the ads. Yes, true.
different factors that could push it left or push it right in terms of the trend. But I definitely think that, there is a decent chance that the state could vote to the right of Colorado. That hasn't happened since 1988. In terms of our models, that is not going to happen, but it very well could. New York, let's go to that state next. That averages at about 9 points for Kamala Harris. And then you can also fill in New Jersey as well. I love those two states together. That's also a 9-point victory for Kamala Harris.
Good. I was super scared there. I was like, oh no, this is a dude that I've actually met IRL, and now I'm pretending like... No, it's so hard to remember everyone's code names and shit. Here, we'll look at it after this video.
As the average between our two models, I definitely see both of these two states trending to the right, because Trump, he's making a lot of improvements with voters of color, and he's also making a lot of improvements with union voters as well. And those two states, New Jersey and New York, are both very union-heavy states. New York is like number 2 in the country in terms of union workers, and New Jersey is like number 4 in the country. And so the fact that those states also are less white than the national average, they have a decent amount of Hispanics and African Americans. I do see Trump, seeing these two states trend to the right because of things like that. And we can also fill in the congressional districts as well. For Maine's 2nd congressional district, we're looking at a 17.5-point victory for Donald Trump. It's in the safe Republican column as the average between our two models. I definitely think that this district will probably trend to the right, just because the state at large could also trend to the right as well. The independents are very swingy, but especially considering the more rural white voters in the state of Maine, I think that they will definitely trend to the right. And then Nebraska 2nd, we have an average of about 1.5 points for Donald Trump.
Get to the
this election cycle
stuff.
Will flip into his column from 2020. This district, it was redistricted to become more Republican since 2020, and so I definitely think for him.
As we can see over here, looking at Texas, about a 15.2 percentage point win, Iowa at about 16.3 percentage point win, and Ohio roughly about a 16.3 percentage point victory. All these states will be in the safe Republican column. Gains with white working.
16 point? Didn't Donald Trump tank compared to previous Republicans in Texas? Texas presidential election history. There we go. 270 to win. Saving our ass today. Yeah, he got 52% of the vote, and then 52 point. He lost 1/10 of a point in Texas. Why would they put it so high? Oh.
Class and Hispanic voters. Potty over here, looking at Texas, about a 15.2 percentage point win, Iowa at about 16.3 percentage point win, and Ohio roughly about a 16.
I don't know enough about Iowa or Ohio. Florida 12 points. I just don't think
0.3 percentage point victory. All these states will be in the safe Republican column. Gains with white working class and Hispanic voters are definitely going to push that state to the right.
Oh no, I'm sorry, Parallax. What did I call you retard for?
100%. And so that's where you're going to see those gains and a couple of those states come from as of right now. Florida is about a 13-point victory when we average it out in our final model. I have about a plus 11.5-point win for Trump in the state of Florida. GoldCrown, I believe he has about a 14-ish point win in the state of 14.6 percentage point victory. So when you round it out, it basically comes out to about a 13-point victory in the state of Florida in this video. Looking at the Sun Belt, where Donald Trump has gained quite recently in the past couple of months, essentially. This is going to be absolutely insane. North Carolina, he is winning that very, very easily. If we go to the state of North Carolina, he's actually winning it.
This was made after the 7 days ago. It was made after everything came out about that Mark Robinson guy. I don't know, guys. I don't think that Trump is losing North Carolina, but I don't think he's going to have 8 points. I don't even know if... Wait, 1 second. States. How do I get this for any other seat? Voting history and trends by state. And then what was I looking up? North Carolina. Oh, that's how many Electoral College votes. I want to know how big of a margin. Trump didn't even get half of the votes in 2016, and he didn't even get half of the votes in 2020. Why are we giving them so many extra points on average?
By about 8.1% in our average, which would essentially carry Mark Robinson over in the governorship race, and he'd be outperforming the last result by roughly about 7.5 points-ish, possibly exactly a 7-point improvement, which is similar to the shift in the popular vote that we've been looking at.
I was a different man 2 years ago. Okay.
And it makes sense because the state, believe it or not, actually kind of moves with the nation's shift. For the past couple of cycles, the state's actually been a pretty stagnant state in terms of its trend, and it tends to move with how much the nation tends to move. And so that would be a pretty big deal if it did actually move with the nation at large. It would be kind of interesting to see that take place once again in the state of North Carolina, as it has done for the last 2 cycles. Georgia, in our forecast, average basically has a 6.6 percentage point win for Donald Trump. He would be winning the state fairly easily. When you reweigh all the polling data, looking at the demographics, Donald Trump has improved with African Americans and Hispanics and non-college educated voters by too much for Kamala Harris to really even have a path in the state of Georgia. And that also goes for Arizona and Nevada as well. She also...
Jesus Christ. That's so crazy to so quickly write off Nevada. Nevada is so close, right? Oh, I mean, I guess it's gotten better for Harris. Or maybe not. Oh, this is a popular vote. Win probability. Damn, has it been that long since I've looked at Nevada? I thought it was 50-50. The vote margins that they're throwing on these things are crazy.
has kind of been barred out of pass from these states because Donald Trump has improved with Hispanic voters to the point where she's basically in an unrecoverable spot with them right now, with only about 40-something days left to go out. I believe it's almost a little bit under 40 days left till the election. But essentially, Donald Trump is running it up in the Sun Belt by a pretty big amount. And with these final Rust Belt states, guys, look at this. With Nebraska second and the Sun Belt states, he's already tied in the Electoral College, meaning he essentially would have to lose in the House of Representatives to not be elected the president of the United States. Now, looking at the final Rust Belt state averages, we do have state of Wisconsin at about a 6.4 percentage point margin for Donald Trump, as well as in Pennsylvania, a 6.3 percentage point win. So they're voting pretty close with each other as they usually.
Say it again, but slower. Say it again, but slower. What the did he just say? Wisconsin, 6 points up? What is this DEI affirmative action shit that they're doing for Trump here, dude? What the Pennsylvania +6? Michigan +4? That's wild.
Pennsylvania, a 6.3 percentage point win. So they're voting pretty close with each other as they usually end up doing. I think Wisconsin's going to vote to the right of Pennsylvania. Gold has Pennsylvania voting to the right of Wisconsin very narrowly. So when we average it out, they basically almost all vote together. The polling errors here have been pretty abysmal, and we expect.
Bro, no. I saw Michigan. I was about to say, are they about to put Michigan in the blue for some reason? No. I saw it
be a lot worse in Pennsylvania because they're waiting for an electorate that is too Democrat, especially with all of the new registration gains that Scott Presler has made in the state of Pennsylvania. And I will be doing a space on X probably as of right now while you're watching this, basically with a lot of people from the Pennsylvania campaign team for Trump. And we're going to be fundraising for SoCal Strategies. But looking at Wisconsin, looking at that margin as well, I mean, the polling data has Harris ahead by about, tied or 1 point-ish, 2 points. And when you apply the previous polling errors in the state, you actually do get a margin that's fairly similar to what we have right now. And the final state is going to be the state of Michigan, where our averages currently have it as a 4.4 percentage point victory in the.
These guys are for a rude awakening. Like, I think Kamala's gonna win. I think she's gonna get Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and that's all she needs to win right there. They have Nebraska's second as Republican. Yeah, there's not a reality in which it's on these margins. That's the thing that I'm trying to say. Like, it ain't happening like this. Trump may win, but it ain't happening like this. It's just, does it help Republicans? I don't know if they think it's helping Republicans. I don't know if it's them like giga coping. I don't know. They have Nebraska second as conservative, lean conservative. They have Wisconsin up 6. I don't know if it's denial. I don't understand it.
Electoral College. And so at this point, guys, in our final map, Donald Trump is getting 313 Electoral College votes to Kamala Harris's 225 Electoral College votes. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to go ahead and hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And GoldCrown, any closing comments?
Well, this is a very interesting forecast. Both of our election models are pointing to very similar margins. It was fun doing this video on point. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for watching this video, guys.
Jesus. All that because I wanted to see if they actually made a video like they said they would about me. Wait, hold on. They said why Republicans are winning the Senate by a huge margin, and they have Carrie Lake up there? They have Carrie Lake up there as the example of why the Republicans are winning the Senate? Wait. No shot. Did something change in that race that I don't know about? Wait, can I see for the Senate? Holy shit. I actually didn't think it would be that big. Oh my God. It can't be real. It can't be real. Sonsol Vyvanse? I don't have any. I don't have any. That's why I keep on throwing into chat this nice little donation button. If you guys want to help me afford my medication, if you guys want to help me afford, to live, please hit that thing. I am currently all in on trying to find a way to afford to go to the doctor, to get a prescription, to get my Vyvanse, and the money to get the Vyvanse. That's all I'm thinking about right now. I just want to be a productive human being.